Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is sportsightphotography and this is editing my old photos, episode 1. This photo right here was one of my OG photos right here of my mate Noah. So first up, we've got to crop up the image into, whatever we want. I kept it kind of similar to the original with the cropping. And now I will start putting on obviously start actually editing my photos. So right here I go to my masking. First I'm editing on an iPad or laptop, so please forgive me, I'm a bit slow at the start. I will start off with a linear gradient, which is kind of like a faded bit, just like so. You drag your little you drag that to wherever you want it to, then you can change that kind of area with whatever coloring you want. So right here I turn down the exposure just a little bit down to 1.29, and that'll be it just for that little mask. I add a couple other masks in this edit. This is probably one of my best OG photos. Like, if you guys have been following me since right at the start, when I was only on TikTok, like, you guys would know this was OG sportsight photography. This is before I was even sportsight photography. I used to have an old YouTube channel called Censored, and for some reason I decided to make the photography name Censored Photography. Kind of think of the name. Sounds like you're not taking photos for sports. But anyways, here I'm adding, I think this is the third mask that I'm adding, linear gradient mask. Just add a bit of shadow to the image. Try to keep it around the same exposure of darkness around the edges. And right there we have the image where the two main players are standing out somewhat the most. So here I turn down the exposure a tiny bit, contrast plus it a little bit, highlights, minus, shadows. Normally don't really change the shadows that much. Whites and blacks I do change quite a lot, depending on who the photo is of. If it's of a darker person or a darker skin tone, for some reason it just doesn't really work that well. I turn down the tint here and the vibrance, but I will put the tint back to the middle from what I do remember. Here I turn on vignette, which is pretty much what I did with the masking, but it does it for me. Grain adds like little grainy bits, makes it look almost more cinematic. Do love me some grainy photos. And right here is pretty much the final product of this image. I'll do a little bit of minor editing, but pretty much done. Here we are, we got a throw-in image of my boy Spencer on in the background. This was same as the last photo just before. This was from my first ever photography shoot. Obviously got to start with the crop, turn down the exposure a little bit, just kind of play around with it at the start. And then when I finally get a vision of what I want the image to actually look like, that is when, I start getting into masking, actually doing heavier, or somewhat heavier edits of the photo. So here I'm selecting a subject, which pretty much AI does this bit for me, but it allows me to edit just certain bits instead of, having to fully brush in the whole subject that I want to mask / edit. It pretty much just does it for me. Sometimes, as you will see later on in the video, also in this clip here, I do have to use the mask to use the brush tool to get rid of people in the background of certain masks. Right here I'm just making the ball a mask, because why not? Never really done that, so let's just try new things today. Turn down the exposure, just little minor edits to this one. Highlights gotta be pretty low. Shadows doesn't really need to be changed that much. Whites and blacks, As a photographer, little minor details like that, that can really make your photos stand out from the rest of your other photos. And right here, I'm creating another mask of my background, and what you will see me do here is edit the mask with my brush tool. So I click add to mask 2, brush, and then I brush in the player in the background, so that makes him a part of the edit that I do to the background. If that makes sense. You guys will see here, I keep accidentally clicking out of the masking. You'll see me do that a couple times throughout the video, but I'm here. I can, just straight up edit the background that I wanted to. Here, I'll touch up the masking a little bit. So the main player, Spencer, he is standing out from the rest, and he doesn't have aspects from the background masking on him, if that makes sense. Because when I brush, sometimes a little bit of the red will go onto the player, and then the edit will actually transfer onto the player, which is something you don't want to do. So now I will start editing the lighting, turning down the exposure, contrast, highlights, all that stuff right here. This is kind of one of the more simple edits that I do today. Haven't really posted in a while, to be honest. Next time I will be reposting an old video of POV basketball photography. Just decided to kind of move away from getting my face out there. Kind of just doing these little edits, and also do my POV sometimes, just not really showing my face. So I will re-edit that whole vlog, that whole. You guys get what I'm trying to say. That was bad, but now I'm just doing minor tweaks to the original edit, slowly making the edit just look better from what the original edit and the raw image was. So now I'll add in another linear gradient. I add this one in, because sometimes I add it in and then delete it. But this one, I remember, just make the exposure lower. Just makes, the middle subject or whatever you're trying to make stand out, makes it stand out even more. That's pretty much what vignette and masks do for you. And that is pretty much it. Ooh, alright, so this is the OG pick right here. We got a little Sally pick. Low-key cooked with this one. The OG edit, absolutely horrendous. I very much apologize to Arna, because at the time, if I edited like I edit this image today, oh my goodness, he would have bloody been happy. Right, so here I cropped it a bit at the start, as you saw. Turned down the exposure, contrast, highlights. Every photographer or editor should start off, cropping, slowly starting to edit, see what kind of vision you would want the edit to be, and then just edit off what you think would be nice. And I turned down the vibrance fully eventually for the background, as you will see it up in a sec. Because I played with the things at first, oh, that actually looks alright. I'm gonna make the background have no saturation slash vibrance. And once again, not the whole point of editing, but a major point of editing your images is to make the player or the main subject that you're taking photos for stand out. And this is what I've done really well for this image. Not to, sound cocky or anything, but I genuinely am so happy with the way that this edit turned out compared to the original edit. This was one of the probably 4th times I took photos, maybe 3rd, not too sure. But here I turned down everything. Turn up the saturation a tiny little bit, I remember. But then I add in some little detail, add in a bit of effects. just some, minimal effort things that makes your photos 10 times better, even if people can barely notice it. Because in the end, other photographers will notice it, other editors will notice it. It's just small, minor things that will make your image better. And that is what you need to do as a photographer and as an editor. And here I select the subject, which is Arnav. Turn up the exposure to make him stand out from the background. Contrast up a little bit. Shadows down. I think I did whites up. Yeah, whites up. On up. Whites down a little bit. Blacks was, still stayed as the same. And after this, I don't really do up that much. I turned up the saturation a little bit, added a little bit more of effects, and after that, the photo's pretty much done. I might, little crop it a bit more. Just little minor things. There's Lorenz. This is from my first and currently the only basketball shoot that I have done. And from this shoot, I will post the POV. I will re-edit all of the photos, obviously, and post those ones. So here, I don't remember doing too much, to be completely honest, for this image. Quickly go to making a mask for the background. I remember I did something. It was like dehaze. I can't fully remember. But yeah, I slowly turned down the shadows, whites a little bit, blacks. I think I went on, stayed that. Yeah, that's right. I think it was in the detail that I turned down. The saturation was down a little bit as well. What did I do? I did something. Maybe it was in optics. I can't remember. But the sharpness, that makes it blurry for the background. That's why I've turned down the sharpness pretty much fully. Here I'm making a new subject mask of Lorenz. Just little minor ones for this one. Doesn't really need heavy editing like I did at the start of my photography journey. I bloody edited the crap out of everything. And honestly, my photos were horrible. Like, I do not understand how some of my old photos got me a couple clients or people reaching out. And at the start, I only took photos for my mates because I'm a bit of a shy person when it comes to meeting new people. But now I just feel like whatever. Like, I'm ready meeting new people. Done a couple photography shoots for people I don't know. And this right here is the finished product. Sorry for the lacking in this video. They're not that bad, to be completely honest. It's just, the photo's good, just sometimes the facial expressions isn't that good. Luca, I apologize, this is kind of a bad lack. But obviously I start off pretty much every image cropping and then slightly going into the light. Slowly editing that softly. Once again, just trying to create a vision of what I want the image to look like. Here I will mask the background. I remember I pretty much just made the background fully blurred. Just trying to make Lucas stand out as much as possible. And yeah, editing really is not that hard. Obviously at the start I was bloody horrible, but now I understand that it's just all about lighting and making the subject stand out. No one cares if you've got, really heavy editing, because in the end, heavy editing for all your photos, no one really likes that. I'll have, maybe 2 black and white images out of, let's say, I've done 15 photos, 2 black and white, 1 other heavily-ish edited, and then everything else is pretty natural. And that's what you guys should stick to. And this edit was the quickest one so far. We got Arnav back. Far out, I did take a lot of photos for him and his team when I first started. So shout out to them, because really, him and his team are the reason why, I've made it in photography. They allowed me to come even though my photos were pretty bad. But here, like every photo, start with a crop. This one I'm starting a bit differently because I kind of already have a vision in my mind. I quickly create a background mask, and as I edit, I notice that one of the players in the background is still not a part of the background mask. So I have to add him to the mask by going on the brush tool and, brushing him into the mask. So yeah, I'll zoom in a little bit here. It's a little bit of a slow, annoying process when you're masking a lot of the time. But here I've kind of rushed through these edits, edited the video of the edits, so you guys don't have to sit and watch the whole thing. And yeah, so here we are. Arnav is the main subject, the background grey, black and white pretty much. Yeah, so here I will, not now, but there we go, create a mask for Arnav, and the bloody player in the background has been selected again. So as you see, once again I have to remove him. It's pretty annoying when AI doesn't really work to its full potential, but it's okay because I would much rather have to delete or add a little bit of someone instead of having to do a whole bloody thing myself. So here we are. I'm touching up the little subject mask just a little bit here, making sure it's only Arnav that is in this mask, and making sure that the background is not forgot what I was going to say there, but anyways, I'll slowly turn up the exposure just a little bit, contrast down to highlights. Normally highlights don't get changed that much, to be honest. Shadows, not much there. Whites go up a bit and blacks go down here. I do remember I turn up the saturation. Then after that, it's just minimal changes to the image. Little effects, little details that'll just make the image 100 times better than the original. But from what I remember, this is pretty much the final. Oh no, what I do here, I make another mask, a linear gradient. It'll, do a little bit of that for a second. There we go. Wanted to make the grass colored, and I did actually a pretty good job of this. Once again, pretty happy with the way this one turned out. Made the grass a little bit brighter, saturation up a bit, just little things that'll make the photo better. And I really like how the players, how their, legs, when you think about it, they would have blended up with the same saturation and editing that I did with that linear gradient, but it didn't. This is the final product. Just wanted to say thank you guys so much for watching this video, always liking and supporting all my posts on TikTok. I will be posting here on YouTube a lot more frequently. If you would like to book, please book using the link down in the description below. Prices will be on the screen right here. Please like and subscribe and send me around to your mates so I can get more popular and keep upgrading my equipment so I can become a better photographer and make better quality photos, videos, and just become a better photographer in general. Love yous.